Nomdee and the Spoony Bard. Nomdee, introduce yourself to the people.
What's up, guys? I'm Nomdee, Nom for short, if you prefer. I'm a content creator on YouTube with a heavy focus on video games and video game related things.
Yeah, and then we all know Spoons. He was in our last broadcast. Spoons, say hi.
Hey everybody, turning again. Same thing, content creator in the veins of showcasing old games and new games as well.
Yeah, and finally, guys. I mean, like, if you guys have watched my channel or any one of theirs, you know, we kind of do a lot of video responses to each other, pretty much. So this is kind of I would say it's kind of like a reunion of the Avengers, you know.
It was inevitable at some point.
Yeah, it was gonna happen at some point. And there's quite a bit of topics to talk about in gaming news today. A lot has been going on, and we have a few topics we'd like to share. But we're gonna try to get the short news out of the way. Spoons, you have quite a few news articles with and announcements for games that are coming out soon. You want to share that with them?
Yeah. So the first thing I actually do want to cover is for those of you who did miss it, we are getting 2 dancing games to Persona. Persona Moon or Dance Moon Night, Persona 3, which has all the Persona 3 characters in it and is kind of based around that game. We're also getting Persona 5 Dance Star Night. So it's kind of in the same veins as the one that was Persona 4 Dance All Night that was on a PlayStation Vita. Is coming both to the Vita system and the PlayStation 4 as well. So more options to play it there. And we are also getting a sequel to Persona Q, Persona Q2, which was a spin-off Persona game created by the Persona team as well as the developers for the Eterna Odyssey series for the Nintendo 3DS.
All right, so
I'm kind of a Persona novice at this point in time. But these games that you're talking about, the first few are strictly rhythm-based games, correct?
Correct.
And the Q2 game that you were speaking at the end of it, could you elaborate on that a little more? How much do you know about that game in particular?
Well, actually, from the original Persona Q2, what it kind of did, it was a mashup. It was kind of like a dungeon crawler-esque game. Kind of like you kind of crawled around in the dungeon. You could draw different things on your map to kind of help you guide through. Something in the veins of what the Eterna Odyssey series does. One of the biggest things, though, that the Persona Q did was it took the characters from Persona 3 and Persona 4 and put them in the same game. It was almost like a little collaboration between the two.
That's awesome. I honestly can't get enough of Persona 5, so anything that has the Persona label on it, I'm all for it.
yeah,
Persona 4 is a great place to start if you have a Vita, the Golden. It's a great series. So.
And how are you liking the Persona so far? As being you're new and introduced to the Persona games finally.
I honestly don't know how I've gotten this far in life without at least giving one of these games a shot before. I'm almost embarrassed by it. I'm an avid anime fan. I'm an avid JRPG fan. I'm a huge JRPG fan. So it just seems like it should have clicked at some point in time. So when I bought Persona 5, I thought, I'll take a chance on this game. And little did I know that it would pay off so grand. I'm in love with it. I can't get enough of it. I'm actually probably going to play it as soon as we're done here.
All right. And was that all you had, Spoons, that we had coming out? I think we had
a little quick reminder here. We do have Undertale coming out on the PlayStation 4 on the 15th of August, I believe it was.
Yeah, I think
so
that's like a week or so, right?
I'm just glad it's getting more exposure, to be honest, because that's a very underrated game. Undertale is underrated.
You think so?
Well, I mean, it's kind of one of those things that, if you're in the video game community, I guess you really know about it, or if, it has a huge fan base, but I don't think people really talk about it all that much.
No,
It's one of those indie games that kind of get brushed off a little bit.
Yeah, did you have a chance to play it?
Yeah, I actually have the Steam version of the game, and it's actually it reminds you of Earthbound a lot, even though it doesn't really play a whole lot like Earthbound. But as I said before, JRPG I mean, can't go wrong with it at all. It's very fun to play, and it's got like a unique sort of style to it where you don't actually have to kill your enemies.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's you also if you kill the enemies too, it's worth noting that it kind of changes the course of the game as well.
Yeah, I haven't been able to touch that game yet, but with it coming out on PlayStation 4, hopefully I'll get my hands on it next week when it comes out.
Got an awesome soundtrack too.
Yes,
That's what I've heard.
It'll be worth every penny.
All
And I
right.
believe it's priced at $15. Just anyone was curious.
Yeah, so I mean it's not that expensive, and hopefully like if you guys are saying it's that good, I think hey people should give it a shot. It's not too much. But what were you gonna say, Spoons?
Oh, that was it.
That was it. All right. Well, Spoons, you brought up a topic recently, because recently they did announce that there's going to be microtransactions coming into Shadow of War, and if anybody doesn't know what Shadow of War is, it's the sequel to Shadow of Mordor. They came out a couple of years ago, and then they're adding microtransactions. And you brought up a good point. Like, do you think microtransactions do they belong in these AAA titles? And normally this is a single player game. Do you think it belongs there?
What are your thoughts on that, Nom? I know you're
Well,
kind of.
I know a lot of people bill microtransactions as sort of a way of games making more money off themselves. And if you're already paying full price for a title, you expect the entire game to be included in that title and not be split up into microtransactions. Honestly, my opinion on microtransactions has always been the same no matter what, if it's a AAA title, if it's an indie game, no matter what. As long as it's cosmetic things, I don't care. You could put as many in as you want. If it's like gear, just the way it looks, or and World of Warcraft started doing this towards the end, and they started adding like mounts and stuff like that you could go ahead and buy. That stuff I am completely okay with. It's when you make the things pay to win is where I have the issue. That should never be the case in any type of game, in my opinion, let alone a AAA title that I supposedly had already thrown down $60 for in the first place.
From the sounds of it, it sounds like Shadow of Mordor is going to give you the option to unlock everything in the game, but it kind of does give you that option to, of course, use the microtransactions to buy certain crates to help you level up faster and get the perks quicker without the grind. I guess that's okay in a way, but what concerns me with that is if they deliberately make it feel like a grind to make those microtransactions feel more enticing.
So what you're saying, like it's probably going to take forever for you to get there. It's going to be like a large time investment with those grinds.
Yeah, and that's honestly what I'm afraid of with them pulling, because I feel like it should be rewarding to do it yourself, but at the same time I'm afraid they're going to make it almost in a way try to force you to buy those microtransactions.
Yeah, and I mean me personally, I mean okay, microtransactions, they're seen as kind of like this taboo thing, in gaming, with everything that's come out. And to me, I guess I understand, but it's just, I mean, the game's going to cost a lot of money. They have to kind of make money, like, on the side. I mean, I guess I'm okay with the microtransaction being there. Just, I guess I'm with Spoons there and saying, like, I just hope that it's not gonna take away from the experience, or make you want to. You're gonna be grinding there for hours and hours, and I hope that it doesn't turn into something like kind of like pay to win or pay to play the game type thing, where I'm gonna need those microtransactions to kind of get somewhere in the game. You know what I mean?
Really, that's honestly what it's all about too, is if it keeps the integrity of the game intact. And let's be real here. Games, when you think about it, over the years, a lot of things have succumbed to inflation. Video games really aren't one of them. They've kind of been around the same price the entire time. Actually, I would argue that some video games in the 90s were more expensive then than they are now.
Yep.
I paid $88 in 1994 out of my piggy bank for Final Fantasy III. for the Super
God
Nintendo. It
dang.
was $88. So if you're adjusting for inflation with that type of thing, it's going to be somewhere over $100. So I have no problem with video game companies trying to make an extra dime here, especially if a lot of this money ends up going to their developers. I know a lot of the developers get screwed by these companies. There's been a lot of that crap going around in the news. I'm
Oh
sure
yeah.
everyone's read about that. But as long as it's going to these people who have to feed their families and that sort of thing, I know an extensive amount's going to go to the upper management there. But yeah, I have no problem with them trying to make money this way as long as it keeps the integrity of the game intact. That's really my only issue with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. What about you, Spoons?
I'm the same way what Nom said. You know, I mean, honestly, my opinions with Nom, microtransactions should pretty much only strictly be used for, well, cosmetic purposes.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, that's all done and good. But have you ever seen like points where microtransactions they've turned into? I mean, there's a right way to do it, and then there's a wrong way. Have you guys ever seen like the wrong way, like something that just kind of frustrated you? You played a game and it's just a whole microtransaction wall. Have you guys ever like played a game where really the gameplay revolves around the microtransactions or the progress?
Outside
Metal Gear
of-
Solid 5 is a prime example of that.
Which one?
Metal Gear Solid 5.
I never got too much into the multiplayer. Like, what?
Basically, the incorporated is you could buy like perks to have it so your base could not be invaded for like so long or whatever, so people couldn't come in and actually raid your base and steal stuff from you in the multiplayer.
So in short, you're kind of paying for protection.
Yeah.
Huh. What about you, Nom?
I honestly don't come into contact with it a whole lot. If it is something that's in a game, I almost kind of steer away from it. I know it's real big on the mobile market, and the mobile market is kind of on and off, and I know a lot of people probably don't care about the mobile gaming industry, but there's a lot of games out there in the mobile industry that do it completely wrong, where you're actually pretty much paying to play the game over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you guys do any of y'all own an Xbox One?
No, I've been actually waiting for the One X to come out before I ventured into Microsoft's consoles.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys ever played or you heard about Halo 5. This is one of those cases where like microtransactions, like in the gaming community, everybody was like, "All right, this needs to stop." Was that when the microtransactions when they started kind of hiding unlockables behind it, and one way it would work in Halo 5 was it essentially turned into a pay-to-win where you'd buy these packs, and they'd include, you know, weapons, rare weapons, and sometimes if you got lucky, you could get an armor unlock. And traditionally in Halo, all those armor unlocks were you had to do challenges or you had to do achievements, and you know, it was all you earned it yourself. And this is kind of where I stand with microtransactions. When you start hiding, you know, special items or items that normally people would work hard to get, when they just start turning into something that you just keep on buying and hope that you get it. I think that's where my biggest problem lies, and also when it becomes a pay-to-win situation. I'm hoping that they don't do that to any more games. I mean, you know, but you never know. I mean, just with recent decisions that I've seen 343 do, or I mean, Call of Duty recently, they did that with Modern Warfare.
There's always going to be someone out there making bad decisions. It's
Always.
inevitable.
Yeah. But I mean, just hopefully, maybe one day, if people stop giving them the money, you know, I mean, it all comes down to speaking with your wallets. And if you're not giving them the money, then hey, maybe there will be a day where we don't have to worry about microtransactions. But I don't know. You guys have anything more to say on the topic?
That's all I got.
Spoons.
We covered it.
Yeah. All right. Well, and here's another trending topic recently that I was talking to Spoons about it earlier. Are there too many open world games that are coming out? Normally, open world games they've always been around, you know, but normally like they never really they haven't blown up like they had recently. now you kind of see that every developer is trying to incorporate open world somehow in their games. And even Spoons mentioned this, is that sometimes it affects the rating that it gets from, like, you know, reviews or something, just saying that games are too linear and they're not open world. But what's your thought on that? Do you think that there are too many open world games today?
I honestly, I couldn't answer that question to you. If there's too many, I don't really know that. It's really a game by game feel, I think.
Yeah.
Honestly, you know, the big one that came out recently was Breath of the Wild, that was open world, and you know, it was such a departure from normal Zelda mechanics that I was actually a little stunned by it at first. But it kind of grew on me. Now, if Zelda kept going down this road where they keep making their games open world and keep deviating from the original Zelda formula, then I
Yeah.
might have a problem with that. But as for it's really just on a game to game basis for me. You know, I gotta see how it feels and how it plays, and if it seems like it's a game that shouldn't be open world, that should be more linear. Actually, you know, the one that really strikes me is Fallout 3. If you remember, I remember Fallout 3 just having it just felt like I had too much on my plate. Like I couldn't digest everything correctly. I
Yeah.
didn't know where to go. I had no sense of direction whatsoever. So I think it really just depends on how it's executed.
All right. Spoons.
I'm kind of the same way. Like open, like I am. I'm being completely honest here. I am not the biggest fan of open world games. Like Nom said, a lot of times they just have like no sense of direction. I tend to get lost in the world sometimes, and just things can, especially with some, they can become very repetitive. The tasks and things like that. But more than that, we've had such strong examples just the past, like Nom mentioned, you know, Breath of the Wild. Another big one was The Witcher 3 that have just kind of come along and topped the series, and all developers are just riding on the coattails at this point rather than trying to innovate it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the way I see it, I mean, like you said, it's all about the execution, right? It's really on all how, you know, the developers, they work to around the player, and, you know, kind of nudging them towards the right direction is, I think, you know, is a good idea. Like they did with Breath of the Wild. Nom, you played Breath of the Wild, right? You know how they kind of nudge you.
Right.
They nudged you in the
Hmm.
right direction, and after that, you kind of got a feel, you got an idea of what you're doing. You know where you're gonna go, and I mean, yeah, I think that plays, you know, a big part in, like, whether open world games are gonna be good or not. But um, I was like recently, like I said, a lot of developers have tried open world, and, you know, not a lot really succeed in immersing the player in that world. You know, like the way, you know, like Breath of the Wild has, or anything. But in my opinion, I don't think there's too many open world games. I mean, there's a lot, but I mean, you never know. We might get that one gem one day, you know, that just kind of rises above the rest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I really think if open world's something that a developer wants to do it like Breath of the Wild does. You really need to, and this is important, you really need to reward exploration. You can't just have somebody walking to the ends of the earth to find absolutely nothing. And that's one thing that I think Breath of the Wild actually did very beautifully. If you wandered off the beaten path and went exploring, you were almost always going to find something there that was either of interest, like it could have been a world boss, it could have been a special item, it could have been a shrine. Like, you were always going to find something. So I think they did that well. And if people are going to continue to do open worlds, they need to kind of follow that roadmap a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Well,
it's just,
you know,
go on, Spoons.
uh, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. I mean, as great as a game as Final Fantasy 15 is, you know, Final Fantasy 15's kind of in a way suffers from being an open world because it's almost like they wanted to tell a story, but yet at the same time give the player an advantage to take control and kind of do what they wanted, and the story ended up lacking in between. So it's finding a balance for those titles as well. You know, if you're going
And
to have a story driven. Go ahead, Dom.
I was just gonna say I completely agree with you, even though I haven't gotten into Final Fantasy 15 a whole lot. but I do see some of the things that you're talking about with the story kind of suffering. And honestly, I don't really think that it fits a Final Fantasy game, to be honest. So I would rather them not continue to go open world in terms of Final Fantasy. I like them sticking to more of a linear, maybe not a Final Fantasy 13 type linear, because that might have been the other way around. You know, it was a little too linear, kind of somewhere in the middle of the two, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like those first few hours of Final Fantasy 13 is a totally different subject, but because of how linear it was, it kind of killed the experience for a lot of players, and for those who didn't get past the first few hours, they were left with a really salty taste in their mouth, you know. They didn't get to appreciate what, you know, what the game had to offer later on. I think that kind of killed it
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
it's actually kind of sad that it suffered from that sort of thing, because I'm one of the few people out there who actually enjoyed Final Fantasy 13. I enjoyed the storyline and I enjoyed the characters, but its linearity, I think, it just detracted from it quite a bit, and I know a lot of people did get to actually experience the storyline because of it.
Yeah, and I think
ThePowerUpMushroom feel the same way.
Yeah, all three of us, I think, we're, like you said, we're the very few that really kind of, we enjoyed the game, but we pushed ourselves, like, I know I pushed myself to freaking play through the game, you know, for the first few hours, because, like you said, that linearity is just, it was a lot. But...
And I really think with the future of the Final Fantasy 15 series, or Final Fantasy series, it's more or less trying to find a balance between the two. Because I think they got something going with Final Fantasy 15, but they need to gear it more in the direction of a story. Because that's what people expect from the series.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. Save the open world for Final Fantasy 14. They already got one.
Oh god, that world is huge. Have you guys played that game?
I have not. It actually, I like MMOs and I like Final Fantasy, but Final Fantasy 14 has always been on my kind of to-do list, and I've never gotten around it. MMOs are such a huge time sink that I'm almost intimidated by them at this point, because I don't feel like I'm ever going to be able to put enough into them to actually get anything out of it.
Let me just say it's a time investment. I've played 14, and it's just the world, like, it's almost... if you guys played World of Warcraft or freaking RuneScape or something, it's just like these developers, they create these whole worlds. They want you to live there, basically. You have different classes. You can cook. You can be a freaking bard. You can be a Spoony bard if you want. You fish. And just, but
There's
it's
only
like
one Spoony bard.
yeah, and it's just, but it's huge. And like you said, it's a big time investment, but really, if you play the game, it has to be the only game you're going to be playing for at least a year.
I don't know. The only thing that would get me into MMOs if we went full-on immersion like SOA.
I don't think that's in our lifetime, unfortunately.
Yeah. Let's say as long as they don't add the death mechanic in real life, I'm cool.
Yeah, as long as there's no crazy developer out there trying to run weird experiment on us, we're good.
Hey, you never know. But anything else to say on this topic? I think we pretty much covered a lot about open worlds. If y'all have anything left.
I think we hit it.
Yeah?
I think we're good.
Alright, so on to the next trending topic right now. See if I can find it here real quick. You know, like with games, you know, like you guys said, you know, storylines, this kind of leads into like more story-based games, but you're starting to see a lot of lack in story, or you're seeing a lot of poor narratives in games. But like, what really draws you guys into a video game? Like, what gets you guys hooked on these games?
I think initially, story is a part of it, and visuals are a part of it, music's a part of it. The real thing that I have to get invested in a character. I really do. I need some character to just like grab me, that I need to follow their story and find out what happens to them. That's the most important part of a game to me. It's one of the reasons that Persona 5 is probably real high on my list, is there's so many characters in there. You just kind of want to find out how things turn out for them, where they're going, and that sort of thing. So I'm gonna have to say it's got to be character development for me, the first and foremost. I guess you could kind of tie that into story a little bit. But
Yeah.
if the story is good and the characters are just dull, then I'm really not going to have an interest in what they're doing in the storyline at all, regardless of how good it is.
Spoons.
I'm kind of the same. I'm kind of the same way. I mean, more so with story than anything, but it definitely helps capture my interest in a game when I have a character right off the bat that jumps out and grabs me. I mean, I can overlook gameplay mechanics, graphics. We were talking about this earlier, Power Up Mushroom, but a soundtrack really helps as well. Soundtracks are something else that really get me in the mood to play a game, because if it's accompanied by great music that just adds to the scene. You're feeling sad and the music's sad, or you're feeling excited and the music makes you feel excited. It can make or break the game in a lot of ways. More than that, I think soundtracks play a key role into what makes a game great, a game from being good to great.
Yeah, and it's just I'm with you on that. Like me personally, I mean, overall, I mean, to me, I guess, yeah, story matters a lot. But I'm with you on both, like, character developments. Like one of the things that like really drew me in is that, granted, Final Fantasy 15. We're talking about this title a lot. Like, I know it's just, but the characters that's what drew me into the game. That's why I kept on playing, was because I guess chemistry between characters was just so well put, and not only that, it also ties in with the music of the game, of all the soundtracks I had, the way it was put, the way it was arranged, and kind of how, I can't remember the direct or the composer for the life of me right now. Do you know?
Yoko Shimomura.
Yeah, it's just the way they write the music for games like these. It's just they know what they're writing for. It's kind of like they're telling a story with the music. I was telling this to you earlier,
Yeah.
Spoons. Yeah, and I think to me, that's one of the most important things. So I'm right there with character development and music, because it can make or break a game. You were saying earlier, Spoons, that Assassin's Creed, it has a good soundtrack, if you overall, but it doesn't. There's nothing unique about it. It doesn't capture the world that you're
Yeah.
really in, you know.
And
Yeah.
it's because the songs don't tie to the characters. Like there's no emotion behind them. It's just there more or less as background music.
Yeah.
I mean,
Y-
without spoiling anything for Nom here, Final Fantasy 15. I mean, let's talk the Leviathan, the Leviathan fight. I mean, just that scene literally just puts you almost in the hands of being a god, and says, "Here, let loose." And the composition itself just drives you through that battle.
yeah. It, it's so well put. Dom, you have any thoughts on that? Like,
On music driving the game, I think, you know, for some reason, when I think about music in a game, like Guilty Gear's got a great soundtrack.
oh man.
The Final Fantasy games are really, and I don't know who you said the composer was for 15, but I know traditionally with the older Final Fantasy games it was Uematsu, and those compositions were just like still today like I can hear them in my head, and every time I hear them I go, oh, that's the boss battle from Final Fantasy insert number here, like I'll actually I'll do this, and I think Spoons does this too, because we actually talked about it a little bit. I'll go on to YouTube and look for renditions or covers, guitar covers, metal covers of these Final Fantasy musics. That I like. You Toxic Eternity is actually a good one, guys, if you want to check him out on YouTube, and Johnny Atma is also a good one. But it's something that can transcend the game itself. It really can, to where you're actually listening to it without even playing the game, and that's been the case with me on more than just a few instances. So yeah, I think music's really important, and I think talking about this subject overall, it's really important to kind of you know, it really depends on the genre of game too. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're playing like Peggle or something like that, who cares what the
Yeah.
characters are? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's really depends on the genre as well. But definitely for RPGs and games that are strictly story driven, that I think, yeah, everything that was said was pretty much on spot.
Yeah. Spoons, do you have anything else to say about this?
I think we're good on that.
We're good. I think we're good. We're good. So I don't know. I was just scrolling through news or topics right now, and I don't know, something caught my eye because someone just sent this to me on Twitter, like just right now. And I have no clue what we can talk about on this, but hey, the little mystery subject, it was unsuspected, but a mint condition NES copy of Super Mario Bros. Sold for $30,000 on eBay.
I actually did see that, and it's the I didn't actually see a picture of it, so it's the original Mario game, Mario 1.
Yeah,
and is it in it? It's in its original packaging, I'm guessing, or completely sealed up.
it's completely sealed, and it's now for people who don't know, I'll kind of inform them a little bit. It's just because normally Super Mario Brothers, when the NES came out, it boxed with Duck Hunt, in just one cart. And then afterwards, they made, I think it was, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, they made a separate box. It was called like a black box series, and that's the one that sold for 30,000 sealed.
Just my general opinion of it, the whole thing is $30,000 is too much for a video game, regardless of what game it is. That's pushing it. I mean, that's not even pushing it. You've already pushed it over the edge. Yeah, I would never, even if I was rich, I would never pay that much for a sealed copy of any video game.
Hell no. Just
Fudge, I could buy 3 used cars with that money, so just hell no.
yeah, and it's just like, what are these? My first thought is like always like, what are these people like? What are they thinking? First of all, Super Mario Brothers is probably the most common NES card out there. You could freaking walk into any retro store, and you're gonna see it all the time. It's the most common one. And not to mention,
popular selling game of all time, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, well, it was boxed with the NES, so everyone who bought an NES has played Super Mario Brothers. There's probably not a single person who hasn't. And not to mention they released a separate cartridge for that. And I don't know, I really don't. There's got to be more out there. I just want to know where this guy got the price, like 30 grand for an unopened.
I have no idea.
An unopened Super Mario Brothers. Wow.
If he was a real boss, he would play it.
Yeah, and I want to know: is this guy gonna open it? Is this guy a YouTuber? Is he gonna? This guy must have some cash to burn.
He's probably gonna end up opening it and playing it, and he's gonna find that it's gonna blink on and off, and then he's gonna have to blow in it his $30,000 copy of Mario Brothers.
Oh God. Let's see. I'm reading more on his
I just saw one too about the Atari 2700 selling for an extreme amount of money too as well. I can't remember the exact figures on it, but yeah, that's insane.
Damn. And well, not even that, but look, I'm reading on the article. It says the seller, a well-known and I'd say pretty respected retro seller collector. That's what the article says, known as DK Oldies, threw the item up last week for a penny.
So where was the middle ground there? How did we get to 30 grand from a penny?
Oh God. Have you guys ever been in an auction on eBay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know how that goes. Someone offers something up and people start bidding on it. My question is, for me personally, if I was going to buy, if I saw it, not that I'm saying I'm going after boxed NES copies, but if I saw it, I think my limit would stop at like 200, you know? If I really wanted, like $200 or $300.
Yeah, if you're a real avid collector, then I would say you're probably right around there.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah, once it got over that, I'd be like, all right, I'm out. Somebody wants this way more than I do.
I just want to know, like, did they gradually work up? Were there these two rich kids, like, going back and forth? They hit 15,000, and all of a sudden everybody dropped out, and they were the last ones there bidding. Or did the guy just jump in and he just dropped 30 grand, like, immediately?
I don't know. And for the person who didn't continue to bid, was that his breaking point? Did he just go in with that mindset? You know, if this gets to 30 grand, I gotta say I'm out.
Well, to be more specific, it sold at $30,000, $100.44. So my question is, did the guy drop out at 44 cents? Like,
yeah, that
once,
is a very specific number.
yeah, and it's just like once it hit $30,100, did he just say like, all right, that 44 cents, I don't have it? Like, did he just run out of pocket change? Oh God.
If that's the case, he should be
story.
bidding on a Nintendo game for 30 grand.
Damn.
Follow-up story. Mom finds 30 grand. Mom finds 30 grand. Mysterious 30 grand charge on her debit card.
Oh God. This type of stuff keeps me up at night because I wonder, what does the family think? I want to see a picture of this guy. Like, is this my neighbor? You never know. But hey,
That's
maybe
retro game price gouging for you.
yeah, and it's just my question. Like, when is that gonna stop? I did a video on it, like retro game price. They're going insane. Have you guys
Yeah,
like seen prices?
Yeah, the recent run-in I had, and like I said, I went to a convention recently, and there was a ton of retro games, and a lot of them were honestly at fair price, but I came across one that just really... It was the original Mega Man, okay, Nintendo, no box, just the cartridge, the original Mega Man game. Yeah, it's probably going to sell for quite a bit, but this guy had it listed at $160. There is no way in hell that the original Mega Man game, without any of the book or the box or anything, even if it had that shit, I don't think I'd pay $160 for it. I'm thinking that, you know, Mega Man, like, and I bought two copies of the gold cartridge Zeldas there, and the first one and the second one, and they together only totaled me $40, which I thought was fair for the two gold cartridges of Zelda 1 and 2. I'm not going to pay $160 for one Mega Man game that's really not that rare. Especially when you can go on eBay and probably get that for like $50-$60 if you're really going out there with it.
Yeah, well, I just did a quick search right now. Just type in and get some numbers out there. Regular Mega Man, just the cart alone. Yeah, it's around like $40. You know, the most I've seen here in like mint condition is 60. You want it with a box, you're paying like $100.
Yeah, and somebody there had and I was afraid to even look at the price, so I didn't even bother. They had a copy of Secret of Mana in the box, and still wrapped in plastic. So I didn't even want to look. I mean, I would love to own it, but I was not even going to look and see what the price was because I knew it was going to be something ridiculous.
Damn. You've had any run-ins like that, Spoons?
I mean, I don't really get to go to conventions a whole hell of a lot, but just looking on Amazon myself, like I was talking earlier, I would love to get my hands on the original two Tales of Destiny games for the PlayStation, but those things are so damn expensive.
I have the first one.
I can't justify. Yeah, I can't justify $100 just to throw at a game. I think that's outlandish.
Yeah, and it's just I have no clue. I feel like I've talked about this before. I talked about it in my other video where it was my overpriced gaming video. I don't know if you guys saw that. Like, why are video games so overpriced?
Mm-hmm.
This guy, he tried selling me Super Mario World for... I forgot how much. It was an outrageous price. I think it was close to $100 if I remember correctly. Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. It's just cart
You did
only.
the right thing. Walked away.
Yeah, no, I got him all the way down to $25. I pulled up on my phone because, first off, I wanted Super Mario World, but I was isolated in Texas. I was in the middle of freaking nowhere, and I was just like, you know what, I need to walk away from this swap meet with something. And no, I showed him on my phone. I told him that I was going to order on Amazon, and yeah, he ended up cutting it all the way down to like $25. But it's just like, I want to know where these these sellers, where do they get these prices? Like, do they go on Amazon and scroll all the way down to the highest price game? It's just...
Yeah, and then they only want to buy them from you from like quarter of that price too. So
Yeah.
they stick it to you both ways if they can.
Yeah, and then my cousin actually had a recent experience. He was telling me about he brought his PSP Vita. Granted, the Vita is a really underrated system. I think it deserves a lot more love. But he brought it to a game store, and they offered him $20 for it.
Wow.
For Vita, and I'm thinking like, what they're gonna sell it for like $100, 120, if not more.
Yeah, I've seen them at GameStop for 150, I think. Used
Yeah.
ones.
And I don't know, like these people are just getting way too greedy with these games, and makes me maybe one day people like video game collecting is probably gonna slowly drop. Like, do you think that'll ever happen? Like it might slow down?
I guess with the old stuff, it's probably always going to stay the same. But with the way things are going, you got to think that video games are eventually going to be digital only, or at least that seems like that's the way they're going. I really hope that's not the case, and that something happens that we avoid that fate. Because I love owning physical media, and I think there's countless benefits to owning physical media over digital media.
Yeah.
And so I think with as far as retro games are concerned, I think it's always going to be the case, and it's only going to. I think it can only go up in price, to be honest with you. The real funny thing to think about, is these retro game stores, whereas they might be struggling now, really, if you think about it, maybe 20 years down the road might have the actual upper hand on game stores like GameStop that sell only new and current games. Because like I said before, the way things are going, eventually all we're going to have is digital media, and they're not going to really have anything to stock their shelves with. Now, from what I've been told, stores like GameStop actually have a back catalog of retro games. They just don't sell them, which is another reason that I don't. I mean, they have them available for like that point system that is absurd on the internet, but they need to do something better with them. But it's just funny to think about, at some point in time that these retro game stores could maybe usurp GameStop at some point in time, given how the industry is going.
Well, actually, surprisingly, GameStop recently, they started saying that they were going to start selling retro games in their stores, and I was one of those people, like, to me, it was just like, nah, that's not going to happen. It's been a point system, and they don't take anything. But recently in Vegas, I went to 3 GameStop stores the other day. I was looking for that Cloud Amiibo. I did find it. But they're starting to sell NES and Super Nintendo games inside the store now. They're actually starting to stock them right behind some glass shelves. And I don't know if this is like a thing, like they're going to go from like a GameStop to a GameStop or anything, but it's something they're starting to do. But they're kind of overpriced. There's a couple of things I saw overpriced. They're trying to sell a Super Nintendo for $150 and a 64. It was the basic black version for like, I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was like still like 150. It's around the same price. And a loose Mario Brothers 2 for I think 60. So they still have if they should bring down the prices, I hope.
I wouldn't expect anything less from GameStop though.
Yeah. But I mean, anyways, moving on. Spoons, do you have anything to say on the subject? Been a little quiet.
Not really. Not really. I mean, you guys pretty much covered my thoughts.
All right. Well, here's one of the other things we were talking about. Spoons, you brought it up about indie games. What was it?
Are indie games oversaturating the market? Like, are there too many of them? Are they being too highly praised by developers? AAA games kind of getting the brunt of it, because it almost feels like every time a new indie game comes out, it gets these high scores, and I mean, it's not any different than per se what was released 20 years ago. It's more of a nostalgia factor than anything.
All right, Dom.
I could certainly see that being the case, and there being an argument to be made for that, because I have myself run, and this is like a huge thing on Steam too, because hell, anyone can put a game on Steam. It seems like nowadays, and especially with the RPGs, there's an overabundance of RPG Maker made games on Steam, and most of them aren't very good. At least the ones I've played, and I've run into this. What he was.
Oh God, did we lose him? We lost him. Oh crap!
Back in. Hold on.
No, it's all good. I guess I'll continue about the indie games. I mean, to me personally, I mean, games are games. Like, I guess to me, it's like the more games, the better. But granted, the market might be oversaturated with them. But there's always going to be that one gem, like that's going to rise above the rest. And I think that, you know, if a developer can do it, then hey, let them do it. If they can make a great indie title, who knows? They might be able to get like funding for a sequel, or maybe even make a better game. I think a really underrated indie title. I don't know if you've ever played it. You ever played Shank?
I've heard of it, but I've never played it.
Yeah, it's a small arcade indie title. It was like almost kind of like a slasher or a hack and slash beat 'em up. Yeah, and it was really cool. You could play with like 3 people. And basically you run around with knives and you just shank these terrorists that try to get to certain bombs. It was really cool, and they made a sequel, and of course it was a lot more better. And I mean, it's just games like that. Like, you never know, you could probably find a really fun game. But I think it all comes down to whether the developers, if they can understand their games, you know, what they're trying to create, and try to do something more than just throw out an indie title. Because a lot of the developers who make indie games, they're sometimes it's their first game, you know?
Yeah.
But you just never know what could come of it.
I mean, there's some great indie titles out there, but I just feel like there's some games are like, you know, let's talk about PSN and how every time they do a free game anymore, it's some shitty indie game that no one gives a shit about.
Yeah. Oh, you think those are bad? You should see Xbox, man.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Yeah, it's just. So, do you think there are too many?
I do. I mean, it's like Nom was just bringing up a minute ago. Is like they do. There's so many of them, and there's so many that there's so much focus on them in the store.
Yeah.
For download.
But again, there's a lot of focus on them, but then look at how much. We don't really have as much games that are. Not a lot of games are coming out, you know what I mean? We don't have as many as we did back then, because back then it was just kind of like games appeared on the store shelf, and it was like, oh, okay, there you go, you know? You have your full release game, but now games, they cost a lot to make, and not a lot of studios, they don't have the resources to make those kind of games anymore. You can't just throw them out on the shelf. So I guess I can understand why there's a big. There's a lot of indie games. There's going to be a lot of them out there. Just, I think it all comes down to quality. You know what I mean? He's back.
You know, I'm back now. I guess I should check my power settings before we do this next time.
Oh, no, dude, just wiggle your stick or play a game while you're doing this.
Yeah, I had my controller sitting down, so I was just, because I was actually on my computer.
Oh, well, if you find any articles, feel free to like just pitch in, man. But
no, but I don't know how much of that you caught from me saying, but it was essentially, you know,
I think you can start
agreeing
over.
with. Well, you know, my thoughts on it are it basically boils down to this. I agree with Spoons here on the idea that there is certainly an oversaturation there. I just really don't know if there's a possible solution to it. Because you certainly don't want to turn anyone off from developing games, because you never know who you're going to turn away, you know?
Yeah.
It was something like the creator of Harry Potter. She was denied like so many times for her books, and see what that turned into. So it kind of follows the same thing there. But, you know, I think it's a valid point. It's just something that I don't really know if you can police or there's a solution to.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean,
I mean, what I'm referring to is like these people that will make a game that it's flawed, it has issues, and like they'll sit there. Like sometimes you'll get these video game reviews that treat it like it's the best thing since sliced bread, and then they'll turn around and accuse a AAA game of doing the same shit.
Right.
But
Yeah.
sit there and that's where I'm coming from with that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that.
yeah, and I was just telling Spoons. I don't know if you were here to hear Nam, but I mean, to me, it's like it's good to have like there's a wide selection of games. It's never a bad thing. Too many games are never a bad thing, but I guess for me, it all comes down to what does the game do, or what you never know. You might see this indie developer. They might start off like you said from this is probably their first games, or uh, you know they're just starting out with these games, and you never know. You could probably get the next hidden gem or the next secret of mana, or from these small indie developers.
Well, I mean
Yeah.
that's why in a way Undertale took off. I mean, other than the fact that you don't have to kill things, the gameplay, the design, the graphics, everything about that doesn't stand out. But it was how well written the characters were, and how much time you invested in these characters that made that game shine. And that's why it's such a good indie game.
Exactly.
Dang. All right, so that was it for indie titles. You guys have any more to say on that? We think we covered everything.
I think we got it all.
We
Take
covered
that
a
as a
much.
yes.
I covered a lot more. I just don't think you guys heard it.
You were talking to yourself, weren't you?
Yeah, for like probably a good minute or two.
And then you realized, like, oh, damn,
I'm
I'm.
alone.
Yeah. How did it feel, Nomdee?
Not good. I had some Vietnam flashbacks to high school.
Oh, that's understandable. But, all right, well, have you found anything on the computer, Nom? You've been scrolling.
No, actually, I was just watching you play Dark Souls.
Oh, you're watching me die over and over.
Yeah, to the same monster over and over again.
I can't even concentrate on this thing. But, well, I guess this can go into our last topic. I had mentioned to Spoons earlier, and I messaged it to you, Nom, I think. Give me 1 second, now I can pull it up. But it's... Correct me wrong, did we cover this already? Do you think that newer games, are they inferior to the older ones?
Boy, that's a
Like,
real loaded question.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ground to cover on that, and you can cover like just a small amount. We don't have to cover everything, but it's. I mean, a lot of people. You gotta admit, a lot of people are starting to kind of see newer games as they are kind of inferior, I guess. But I think a lot of nostalgia has to play into that. But I kind of want to get your
Yeah.
opinion on that.
I try not when it comes to specific games. I try not to think in generalities like that. Because it's much like when we were talking about earlier that it's really with the open world stuff. It's really on a game to game basis. I try to judge a game by itself in a
Yeah.
vacuum, and not compare it to something that was made 20, 30 years ago. I will say this though. There's a heavy focus on graphics, and the more you do with games, the more of a burden it puts on the people making them. And when in the instant gratification world that we live in, it's almost unsustainable to a point where you're going to get games with bugs, you're going to get glitchy games, you're going to get games that just feel rushed. And I
Yeah.
think you see it a lot more often now than you did back then. But that's not to say that a game can't, like Breath of the Wild is amazing. It's an amazing game. I don't know that Zelda 1 is better than Breath of the Wild. I don't know that. But like just judging it in a vacuum, I think, you just really got to take the hit by game basis. That's the only thing I can really say is that, in general, I think there are more games that come out broken and crappy nowadays than back then, but they also
Yeah.
have a lot more on their plate nowadays than they did back then. I will say this too. Consoles were definitely a lot more reliable back then too. That's the one thing that I don't think anyone can really disagree with. And again, it goes to the fact that they weren't really asking to push as much out of these consoles as they do now. But it's certainly, I remember at one point in time, and this was last generation, but Xbox 360 I think had like a 60% failure rate or something ridiculous like that,
Oh,
where it
yeah.
was over half of them, and all of them were red ringing, and it was just a complete and utter mess. That is something that would have never happened in the 90s, and I know we're comparing two different eras, and there's
Yeah.
a lot that goes into that, but I think that's one case that can be made. I honestly think you just got to take it by a game-to-game basis.
Well, everybody bought a 360 with the free game, Russian roulette.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did y'all ever
Surprise!
experience that?
Yes. Yes, but I was actually able to fix my red ring of death by just unplugging everything, turning the power off, and then plugging everything back in and turning it back on. So my
Lucky,
red
lucky.
ring wasn't a death sentence.
Damn. What about you, Spoons?
Well,
Did,
to add on that too, I've got kind of a couple things to say. What Nam was saying with graphics, that is a huge thing for me. Like there is such a heavy emphasis on graphics, and I believe you were talking about it in one of your videos recently too, Nam, about how like there's like Crash Bandicoot and how people couldn't play with certain graphics and things like that. I mean that, and I totally get, but sometimes I think the people focus so much on graphics being great that they forget to take a look at other elements that make games great as well.
Yeah, totally. I think well, what I was referencing in that was the newer generation of gamers, the people that have grown up with the last generation and stuff. I think they see an older game and they go, ugh, like I can't even play this, Like some N64 games I go back and look at and I go, how did I play this, Like
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
way too messy. But so I can understand where they might think, oh, this is really messy. I could never play this. So
Well,
that's what I was referencing there. But I totally agree with you. There's way too much, in a lot of instances, way too much focus on how good the game looks in terms of realism.
and
Yeah.
it's something to take a look at too. Is it's like last gen's Assassin's Creeds and Uncharted's and Mass Effects.
Oh,
That was those games were the kids growing up. That was their Final Fantasies. That was their Secret of Manas. That was their Super Mario's. And we're stuck in the shell of being, oh well, these were the games we played as a kid. So I think nostalgia causes people to fight. It's a battle of the generations.
yeah. I mean, um, me personally, I think I'm kind of right there. Like, I think a nostalgia can play a lot, but when it comes for me, like for games, I look at the game like just like Nami said. You go from a game to game basis, whether it's good or not, and all that. And but I'm right there. I think a lot of people they push a lot of graphics. That has to have the best graphics and everything. And for me, it's just like you can have the best graphics in the world. You can look the prettiest or whatever. But when it comes down to how it plays and what it has to offer, really there's it's not a lot. And maybe I think people focus too much on graphics, but then again, there's been people where or developers where they make a game, it probably doesn't have the best graphics, but the art style and their imagination, I think it can make the game. You know what I mean? Um, Games like I mean Zelda, the Breath of the Wild, it took a weird turn for me because I'm not all for that cell shaded graphics. It threw me off a little bit. I was hoping to see a more realistic Zelda, but just the way what they did with the art style and everything, they created a unique game. Not only that it plays well, but hey, it plays well, it looks beautiful, but it's because they worked with their environment. And I think with the really it all comes down to the imagination of the developers. Um, like if they can make that kind of game, work with what they have, the resources.
Yeah, I totally agree,
I
especially with Breath of the
mhm.
Wild.
Yeah, and I mean, also games like well, Nom, you're watching me right now. Freaking Dark Souls. No, it's not the prettiest game ever. It's probably like the ugliest. But in terms of like visionary and like the imagery in the game, characters, they don't move their mouths in this game. I'll just let you know, like when you talk to people, they don't move their mouths. But it's the style of game that it is, and it's why it's loved, is because of how it plays and how it stands out. And I just think that developers, they have the engines, they have everything, but I just think developers right now, they haven't gotten the most of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. And I just think they need to be more creative and really just start thinking outside the box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they do that, I do think that a lot of the developers, they have a lot of great concepts, but they can probably perform better executions of their games if they just thought outside a little bit.
Yeah,
Well,
and I don't want to, like... Go ahead, Spoon.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, no.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, I don't want to paint myself into this corner of either of just hating games that are visually realistic and stuff like that. I think... it's not that I don't like that type of thing. I just... You often see it come at the expense of other aspects of the game, I think.
Yeah.
And as long as they can execute it well, then it's fine. Like, I like looking at pretty games just as much as the next guy.
Yeah. Yeah, basically you're right. It all comes down to the execution and how the game flows and how it plays, and really whether it's fun or not.
I was going to add on this note too. Nam was talking about how we have these, these titles that are rushed out there to the market. That there's a lot going on and things like that. So in a lot of ways, yes, I think the older games in some ways would end up being superior because there was more pressure put on the developers to release this game with launch. I was watching this speed run of Banjo-Kazooie a while back ago, and Grant Kirkhope, the composer for Banjo-Kazooie, called in to make a donation. And he was talking how back then, he doesn't like how developers are just being able to release a broken game and, oh, it's okay, we'll patch it later, it's fine, let's just get it out there to the market. There was pressure on them to make that game as good as they could, because once it was put on that cartridge, if that game was going to be a piece of crap, there was an update, so it would change it. It's always going to be a piece of crap.
Yeah, that's something that was almost, well, it wasn't almost unheard of. It was seriously unheard of in the 90s with the pre-internet age or the pre-online game age. Yeah, you would never see or never hear of anything like that, simply because they had no way of doing it, but they were almost forced to release games that were complete.
Yeah. Do you think
another thing that floats around too that kind of gets me is we're set in this internet age where everybody can go and share their opinions, and we were talking about this earlier, and hop on a bandwagon. But taking a look at it too, sometimes our favorite games had a very rough development cycle. I mean, I did a video a little bit ago talking about Xenogears and how its ending felt rushed, and how they were put on a time constraint, had to teach these new employees how to use the program, the 3D rendering to create the graphics for Xenogears, and it put a lot of pressure on the development team. So it's just interesting because you don't hear about that as much from older games as you do new games.
long pause?
Yeah.
No, yeah, and it's just, I mean, I lost my thought. Nom?
You're the leader here. You're expecting me to carry it now?
Well, I thought you had something to say.
No, he pretty much he said it all.
Yeah, he nailed it. I was
it.
just like, oh, okay, that. Damn. Yeah, and I mean I don't know, like, if I don't want to be the one to say like developers are getting lazy at all or anything, but it's just, I think there are still people out there who they don't have internet, not to say that there's a majority of people, but there are still some people that don't have internet. And I'm just thinking, like, what happens when in the future, let's just say 20 years from now, Xbox or PlayStation 4, like let's just say that they, you know, the servers aren't going to be around anymore. They're not going to be around forever, you know. At least I don't think so. But what happens when, you know, you can't update the game to its patch? You know what I mean? What happens when that's it? Like, what if you want to play a game, let's just say like Heavy Rain or Until Dawn or something, and there's a patch, and you can't download the patch anymore? Do you think it's okay for developers to release these unfinished titles like that and like just patch it up later, or?
No, definitely, definitely not, and that's one of the things that actually scares me about these developer companies going to strictly digital media, is that exact reason right there, and it's a definite real possibility and a real concern that you're at some point in time you're not either going to be able to update your games, or you're not going to be able to download the games, or you won't have access to games that you have purchased in the past simply because these servers won't exist. Whereas my Super Nintendo, I can fire it up at any point in time as long as it's still working correctly and put a copy of Secret of Mana or Chrono Trigger in it and just go to town on it.
Yeah. And now I'm starting to think, I don't know why, but it just popped in my head. How much do you think these games will go for if you couldn't get them anymore and they were digital only? Like if someone was selling a PlayStation 4 with, I don't know, let's just say freaking what's that new game that just came out? It's with that one chick. It's like Hellblade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What if you couldn't play Hellblade in the future? The only way to play it was by getting a PlayStation 4 with a copy of it in there. Like, just, how much do you think that would cost? Do you think we'll see?
And it's funny you say this, because I actually have a video already recorded where I'm talking about games going strictly digital and talking about this very topic. You know, like, are we going to turn around and see these systems going for $3,000 and have these games on there, people doing system swaps because they want specific games that are on download? You know, download. I mean, not only now are we, you know, having rare games that nobody can get anymore because the systems are down, but yet we're in turn having these electronic components that need to go switched. I mean, and that enters a whole new category of scamming as well, because who knows that the system you're buying is going to work.
Yeah. Nom, you have anything?
This is why you just gotta wait and see when some of these companies go belly up, you buy their rights. Because at some point in time, when people start seeing machines like that go for like $3,000, you know the game companies of the current generation are going to be buying up all these IPs and repackaging all these games as ports. So if you see something go belly up, you know, just go ahead and buy them out if you can afford that type of thing. Because you never know, in the future you might be able to turn around and sell it to Sony for an ungodly amount of money. Just the rights of the games.
Damn. We should have bought Atari.
Well, I mean... Well, you know, I mean, more than that too. I mean, we've already seen digital media just disappear, like the original Wii Shop. That's gone. All those games that were on there are gone. Unless you have them physically downloaded on your Wii, you have no way to get those unless they ported them over to the Wii U.
Yeah, or like I don't know if you guys ever played. Did you ever play Scott Pilgrim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't get that game anymore. That game's gone. You're never going to be able to download that because it was taken off the market. So if you want to play that game, you're going to have to buy a console that has it, or I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if they can do ROMs now of the 360, but do something. They can get a hold of that game.
At some point, and I think they can, but they're not very stable.
Yeah, but I mean that's something to think about. I mean, you never know. But I'm right there with you guys. I think the one way to solve the problem is, like, if developers, if they do go digital only, at least have, like, give an option to go on their sites and order a physical copy of a certain game. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only way I could see kind of them going digital, but also at least offer, you know, a physical copy, you know, to people who want it.
Yeah, it would be nice. I just don't think they're that generous.
Yeah, and this kind of leads into something else. Like, do you think that digital only, or like digital games, do you think they should be cheaper than the physical copies at retail stores?
Oh, hell yeah. mean, they're not having to sell the price of the disc. Why are we paying $60 for a game that's digital when it's $60 for the disc? I mean, not $10 off of it at least.
Yeah, logic would point you in that direction.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I don't know, it's just something I was thinking about, like, maybe, who knows in the future, because but digital downloads, it's probably nothing new, but now we're getting to the point where, like you said, everything is moving into the digital world, and I've had a few people that have asked me, like, do you think that digital games, they should be cheaper? In my opinion, yeah, I do think so. I think they should be at least a little cheaper, because the developers, they don't have to pay, freaking for box art. They don't have to pay for the plastic. They don't have to pay for the disc. They don't have to pay. They really don't have a lot to pay for if it was just going all digital. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the physical production side of it goes
yeah.
out the window. So.
But, anyways, you guys have anything else on that, or?
Just real quickly on like the nostalgia factor, something else that kind of plays into it, I think, with a lot of people is the difficulty of games, because I'm almost realizing with the newer generation, everybody's crying if the game's too difficult and not easy to beat. Kind of back when we were growing up as kids, there were a lot of difficult ass games.
I had
gamers in a way have become anyways.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I had a kid, he was talking to me, because he was playing, I let him play Ocarina of Time on the 3DS, and he had nowhere to go. Like, he didn't know where to go. And it's just like, it got me thinking, I'm like, yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't know where to go either, but I almost forget, like, how we did it, because we didn't have forums, we didn't have that, we didn't have no internet. It was just kind of word of mouth, like, hey, you do this, or you talk to your friends, you had cheat codes or something, Nintendo power.
You work for that shit.
Yeah, you had to work for it.
You bonded with the school bully because all of a sudden he had information that you needed, and you had information he needed.
Exactly.
Yeah, there were no casuals back then. Everyone was a legit pro gamer in the day. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because, as like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old kid back in the day playing those games, I remember being able to get decently far in a lot of these really difficult NES and SNES games that I go back now and today and play, and I suck. Like Battletoads I played not too long ago, and Battletoads was a game that I could almost go the whole way through as a kid. Same thing with Contra. I went back and played these games not too long ago. Man, I sucked at them. Like, I could barely get past the first level on either game. It was so bad. Like, I don't know what happened. Somewhere along the line, I lost my edge, I think.
You're that good at Contra, Nom, I worship you. That game is harder than hell.
Contra was, I could never beat Contra as a kid, but I could get to, like, level 5, level 6. I'm dead in the first level, and this is without the 30 lives or whatever it was code. Now, even if I put the 30 lives code in, I'm probably good to level 3, maybe.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I'm right there with you. And I'm like, I've gone back, I've played, I go back every now and then, I play games, but it's just like, as a kid, I remember being so good at these games, but then you go back now after a long time, and it's just, like, damn, I don't know how I did it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But anything else, Spoons? You got? We covered everything, right?
I think yeah. I mean, that's just one of those things I see people complaining about more and more. Or those people who complain about Dark Souls being too hard. It's like, play an NES game, then come talk to me about what's hard.
Even Crash got it a little bit,
Oh,
saying,
yeah.
This Crash game's too hard, and I was like, well, that's what it was like,
Yeah, well,
okay,
like,
just to give you guys an idea, PowerUp knows, but I'm going for the platinum in Crash Bandicoot right now, and I just got through with the High Roads Platinum, not Platinum, but the Gold Relic to get. Holy hell.
Like, dude, I don't know how you're doing it. Like, I'm thinking I wanted to platinum Crash, but after the I played through like the first world and I got to the second one. I don't think I can do it, man. The closest I'll get to like platinum anything, like I'll go for is I'm almost done with Dark Souls platinuming. I'm gonna platinum Dark Souls on my other account, but I'm gonna try doing it on this one, and then Final Fantasy VII. I am gonna kill Ruby weapon and Emerald weapon, but that's gonna take a while.
Yeah. I've got patience when it comes to platformers. That's why I can do it. It's a lot of skill, a lot of trial and error more than anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you going for anything hard right now, like achievements wise, or you try to survive your gaming?
For the most part, I just try to survive. There are some games I'll go back and try to max out. You just brought up Final Fantasy VII. I am doing a replay of that, and this is for the Steam version of the game because I don't have it on the PlayStation 4. But I have every achievement for that game except one, and I wanted to go back and do it. It's the max out your guild one, which is very grindy, so I'm going back and doing that right now.
Yeah, how many hours have you put into that?
I have the Ruby and the Emerald. Oh, well, in this... See, here's the thing. I had it on my older computer, but Final Fantasy VII is not one of those games on Steam that saves to the cloud. So when that computer went, like I was at like 22 million gil on that on that version of, or on that save file, and it's like 99 something you got to get to.
Yeah.
But it's a ridiculous amount that it's going to take me a while. I'm just going to have to etch away at it. But I worked through the game and got all the other achievements. Like you were saying, the Ruby weapon, the Emerald weapon, and that sort of thing. I'm just missing one now, and I feel like I owe it to myself to 100% it.
So did you actually go and you did all the chocobo thing? You breeded chocobos?
Yeah. There's a real... easy way to do it, kind of manipulating the RNG. I couldn't tell you how to do it. You'd have to see the guide because it's pretty extensive. It has a lot to do with feeding them certain kinds of nuts and greens and stuff. But it made it a hell of a lot easier to where you didn't have to go race them and everything.
Yeah. Damn.
Now, just real quickly, I've got to ask, excluding an MMO, what game have you, excluding an MMOs or online games, what games have you sunken the most hours into?
Oh, wow. Probably Final Fantasy VI, I would think. It's got to be somewhere, I would say, between Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, and the initial generation of Pokemon games. It's one of those three. I couldn't tell you which one.
Damn. Me personally, I would say Final Fantasy VII. On my Steam, I know I just clocked in at like 933 hours on that game, but let alone if I'm thinking my entire life, I'll probably put more time into it. But then one that I know for sure that I've hit 1,700 hours is Skyrim. Just for the multiple playthroughs I did and the different characters I made. But I know that game like the back of my hand. But I'm not proud to say that. It's not something I'm proud of.
I don't play many open world games, so the one game I've sunk most time into is probably Chrono Cross. I've probably sunken at least 300 plus hours into that game. Unlocked all the endings, gotten all the characters, just collected everything there is to collect in that game.
Damn. Have y'all ever 100%ed a game?
Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross?
Like Chrono what?
Well,
I was just gonna say, can we please get a Steam port of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross? That'd be good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, well, I told you guys that I'm playing through the Chrono Trigger on the on the regular DS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully, but by the end of next week, I freaking beat that game. But you were looking for a Steam version of that game? No?
It would be nice if Square Enix has a nice backlog of games that they could just make
Or just
droves of money with if they just ported them to Steam. I mean, Final Fantasy Tactics, Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Final Fantasy 1 and 2.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much development time it takes to port a game from, one system to Steam or whatever, but it just seems like they're being obstinate about it.
Final
Yeah.
Fantasy Tactics needs a decent sequel, like legit, like not the advanced garbage that they released, but like an actual sequel to Tactics or that dark of a story at least.
Yeah, that's one thing that actually makes me angry almost to talk about is Final Fantasy Tactics getting a true sequel. And because a lot of people will bring up, well, there's Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2, and I just want to smash their faces when they say that.
It's like
Because,
that's not a sequel.
yeah, they're not sequels. They're not sequels in any sense of the word. The only thing they share is the word tactics and Final Fantasy in their name, and they're both tactical RPGs. The latter
And
of
they
which
both
is
take-
terrible.
Yeah, and they both take place in Evilise.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, Final Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Advance, it's like the never-ending story. Oh, we're gonna take this kid and put him in this fantasy world. Like, screw you.
Yeah, oh yeah, I remember that because it wasn't the tutorial battle in the first one a snowball fight in the schoolyard. I think it was. Yeah, it started off bad and it just left a bad taste in my mouth the whole way through.
Yeah, it's just like, what did y'all experience when you played Advance? Like, did you expect like an actual like port of the PlayStation version or something close to it, or?
Well, I expected a game that was similar to Final Fantasy Tactics, but what I got was some weird. I can't even explain it to you. It was so bad. Like he said, it was like the never-ending story where he got sucked into a book. I think it was. I think that's exactly what happened if I remember correctly. He got sucked into like this fairy tale world, and it was just. And there was. The judge system really threw me off in that game. Like, you'd have these judges that would just say, like, okay, no using the lightning spell in this round. And it's just like, that seems arbitrary. Why the hell are we doing this? Why are there rules in this battle system? Like, I didn't understand it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just. I don't know, I have bad experiences with games like that, where they like just port it to a portable system. I think specifically Tactics is the one where I cried a little bit when I bought it, you know?
Well, Tactics War of the Lions was actually
Well, that was a
ported.
that was
It
yeah.
was almost a direct port with a few additives to it, and I actually wish, like, I've been trying to find a PSP, a decent priced PSP, so I could actually play that game.
Dude, I have an
Never
extra
had a chance to
PSP.
play War. Well, you need to send that shit my way.
Yeah? Yeah, because I mean, the War of the Lions, that was the perfect port of the game. Like, oh my god, they added some job systems to it. Not to mention they had some nice drawn out cutscenes. I don't know what whatever they did. Like, I think Tactics needs to go that route with those kind of cutscenes because it looked beautiful.
Biggest thing too they did was change some of the translation. Like, Tactics had some very poor translation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They fixed everything in that one, and it was really nice. But all right, well, now Spoons, you guys got anything else you would like to cover? Or we got everything so far, because gaming news has been really light lately. There hasn't been a lot of things that have happened.
I think it's just going to be that way.
Yeah, for right now, until you start getting games that start getting or games start getting released or something, or more in the winter near the holidays.
Well, just from September on, seems like it's going to start getting pretty hefty here. You got the SNES Mini coming out. You got Destiny 2 coming out. You have Cuphead, like I said before. The Xbox One X is coming as well. The new Mario game in October. So, it's going to get pretty exciting, I think, here. They're just waiting for the, everyone's enjoying summer right at the moment outside, I think.
Outside? So, what is outside?
Yeah, exactly. But some people have to go outside, and whenever they come back in, they'll start throwing more games our way.
Well, I feel sorry for them.
They don't know how to live life.
Exactly. But anyways, well, we're already ending the talk show. But as always, at the end of the talk show, I have you guys. This time I'm gonna have us pick out one game each because there's three of us here. Um, Unless you guys like have an extra one you really want to throw out there, go ahead. But Nam, we can start with you. Is there any games that you've been playing lately, or games that you just recommend that someone tries out for specific reasons?
So the one that really comes to mind when you brought this up, because I've been playing it off and on, and I go back to it, and I keep going back to it, and I really don't think this game I can ever give this enough credit. It's I Am Setsuna, and
Man,
it's relevant because Tokyo RPG Factory is now working on. I don't want to call it a spiritual successor because I don't really think that's what it is, but a game that is similar in Lost Sphere that's coming out, I believe, in January of next year. But if you want to experience that game, I think you should go back and experience this one first, because this is a JRPG that is done in a retro style almost, not necessarily retro graphics. The graphics aren't killer or anything, but they're the visuals are beautiful, I think, and it just encapsulates what JRPGs used to be. And so I would recommend it to anyone, especially if you're a fan of JRPGs, that this is just a no-brainer. You fork over twice as much money as what it would cost to play this game. That's how good I think it is.
yeah,
It has an emotional story, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with the soundtrack really setting the mood for certain scenes.
Yes, all piano music, by the way. It's all done on the piano. And when you talk about capturing a mood and the somberness of the world, that the setting that takes place within this game, that one knocks it out of the park. I think you can actually purchase the soundtrack by itself too on Steam if you want to. I own it on Steam. I think I don't know, is it coming out for the Switch or is it already out for the Switch?
no, it's out on the Switch. It actually released with the Switch. The only thing is, in America, we didn't get a physical copy. The only place that has a physical copy is Japan, and I just ordered it. So
You're gonna love it.
I've been dying to play that game.
Characters are all pretty lovable. The storyline's good. It's not extremely long or anything, but it's not the price of a full title. So I mean, it for what it is and the price of it, it's an A+ for sure.
It was a very, very excellent first attempt. It really was.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
Off.
So I have high hopes for Lost Sphere whenever it comes out. So, Tokyo RPG Factory, don't let me down.
I just think people were disappointed with it because it hyped itself up to be the next Chrono Trigger, and nothing can live up to that expectation.
That's true. No one should look at that game like that. No one should look at any game ever for the rest of time as being a spiritual successor to Chrono Trigger. That's just setting it up for failure. No one's gonna touch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't know. I gotta beat it. But when I do, I'll let you guys know.
Chrono Trigger. It's similar. There's similarities between it and Chrono Trigger. That's really where you draw the line.
Yeah.
There's
The combat.
aspects. The combat. There's a silent protagonist. Some of the names of the spells are similar and that sort of thing. But yeah, really the storyline's completely different. The characters are completely different. And it should be marketed on its own. I don't think they should throw in, Chrono Trigger spiritual successor, because that's just not fair. It's not Chrono Trigger. It's a game. It's great on its own, and everyone should play it that's a fan of JRPGs.
Just on a quick note, it's kind of funny. Like when I finished up I Am Setsuna, I was a tad bit disappointed with the game, just like the story and things like that. But it was one of those games that I was able that I was able just to keep thinking about for a week how it ended, and the story, the more and more I thought about it, the more and more lovable it became.
Yeah, and it definitely had some flaws with it. I'm not going to paint this game as a perfect game or anything. And I went over this a little bit in a video before about how, I think they might have overthought the ability system a little bit. Some of the landscapes, not some of the landscapes, all landscapes are pretty much the same. Like, it's all a snowy world, and there's ice caverns and snowy mountains and snowy fields are your dungeons, and so it does lack a variety in that sense, which I plan to see that rectified a little bit with the Lost Sphere. And honestly, even with those drawbacks, I still love the game.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. Well, now I'm looking forward to playing it. All right. Well, what about you, Spoons? You have a game that you think everyone should try?
Oh gosh, I'm just gonna I'm gonna throw it out there because the company just released Hellblade, and I talked about it in the most recent video. The most recent video I uploaded actually is Enslaved Odyssey to the West. Just beautiful looking game, has a decent story, and just I think it goes underappreciated. I think it had a lot of interesting concepts to it.
What's it called?
Enslaved Odyssey to the West.
Legit, I don't think I've heard of that one.
Yeah, I'm kind of blanking on that myself.
I'm trying to.
Yeah, it's for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, but it was just one of those games that nobody really picked up. Got reviewed well by critics.
I remember it now. It's yeah, I know which one you're talking about. That is actually, I've been trying to hunt that game down. But it looks almost like kind of like what do you call it? I guess graphically wise, I would say Horizon Zero Dawn, or like the character models or something. But I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah, little fun fact. Andy Serkis voices the voice for Gollum, voices the main character.
Dang, yeah, I've been trying to look for that game. I can't believe I forgot about it. I'm gonna write it down. So Odyssey, all right. Dang, you never heard of it, Nom?
No, actually, last generation, especially when you were talking about PlayStation, I honestly didn't do a whole lot of the PS3. I did have the 360, but I didn't get a lot of games for it at that point in time. It was just that time of my life, I guess. I don't know. It wasn't real wealthy to say. My pockets weren't that deep.
All right. Recommendation, Nom. If you end up getting a PlayStation 3, Ni no Kuni is definitely worth checking out.
That I was actually just looking at that the other day because I was reading about the sequel, and I was like, you know what? I gotta find a copy of this game, the original title, and play it because it looks like something that I would enjoy. But I'm gonna have to hunt down a PS3 for a decent price.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, pawn shops. Well, here in Vegas, like I tell you guys, if you guys like need any games over here, freaking stuff goes dirt cheap. Pawn shops are starting to sell PS3s for like $50 over here in Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah, and stuff like that. They're super dirt cheap. Like right now, I'm having a ball because I don't know what happened, but all the prices of all these old video games just dropped drastically over here, and I'm smiling.
The cheapest one I've seen, I think, so far is $125 with no games. So I've been waiting to see something come down in price a little bit.
Well, if anything, I'll freaking send you a link if I see any sellers, because sometimes they sell them with a bunch of games.
Yeah, that sounds good. Either that or I'm just going to steal my older brother's because he has one.
All right, well, I guess I'll share my game. We're getting Last Action Hero for the Genesis. It's a movie title or licensed movie game. No, I'm kidding. Have you guys seen Last Action Hero?
Why? For whatever reason, the name is ringing a bell, but I can't picture anything with it.
Put that cookie down. You know, like freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger. Just.
Yeah. Now I'm getting it.
Yeah, with that kid. I don't know why, but I just said it because recently I found at a store for $1 in the case with the manual and everything. And I don't know why, but I was just like, you know what? Screw it. I need Last Action Hero. But I guess game-wise, what I've been playing recently, Star Ocean, Integrity and Faithlessness. If you guys haven't played it, or if you have and you played it when it first came out, it was released kind of broken as well, but they've updated it, and I think it's working pretty well, and I'm enjoying the game quite a bit. So I think that anybody who's like in the music department is really where it captures, you know, just the mode and not the mode, the tone of the game and the characters. I just think it's now like a Star Ocean game like that I wanted to see when it was released. Granted, I didn't even get a lot of love when it came out.
I have no comment on that game.
No comment.
I loved it, but I feel like its story could have been better. But other than that, it was really good.
I haven't gone so far in the story, so I'll soon. Who knows? Maybe I'll freaking throw out a review or something. But so far, I'm liking it. But then again, there's been a lot of things that I've liked, and they just. You know what? Just in case for that one, guys, pick up Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions. That's one you can't go wrong with. A decent portable.
That game's actually.
Portable
the Star
game.
Ocean game is sitting right here to my left. It's on my to-do list. I bought the game simply because I really don't know anything about it. I bought it simply because it has Star Ocean in the title. So it's on my to-do or my to-play list, sitting right next to my left whenever I get around to finishing Persona 5 and Final Fantasy 15. I feel like
you're not finishing Persona 5
or Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah.
But I feel like whenever I gotten my fill of those two games, that my backlog is going to start clearing itself out a little bit better because those pretty much consume my entire life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know yet, but well, freaking what is Spoons just said. I'm hoping that it doesn't get bad, but it probably will. I really hope not. Now I'm scared. But yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics. You can't go wrong with that. You know, if you're into those tactical RPG games. Specifically, it's on the go for the PSP. So, there you go. I guess that's it, right, guys? For the talk show. Spoons, Nom?
Yeah, I don't have anything to add.
Yeah,
All right.
That's all I got.
Well, all right. Well, thank you guys for joining us in the talk show. It's been a good hour, and so. Nom, it's nice having you. Maybe we could have you again. You two, Spoons, because this is a lot of fun. Like I said, it was bound to happen with how much we do video responses to each other. But you know, hopefully more gaming news comes out and we can all talk about it. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. Remember, you can check out Nom's channel. I'll have a link in the description along with the Spoony Bard. Also, if you guys want, feel free to pitch in. Like if there's any articles that you guys want us to talk about, you could always send it to us on Twitter. All the links will be in the description below. And Nom, do you want to sign us out for this episode?
Why don't I watch this or listen this time, and I'll do it next time.
You're gonna listen?
Yeah, I'm gonna listen.
Well, how do you end your videos?
How do I end my videos? All I do is I give them a see ya.
So how would you do it in this video?